Hi and welcome to day 10 of the 12 days of summer scrap lifts from Scrap Squad. Today's lift I'm using Cocoa Vanilla Storyteller papers for again. I made a bit of a mess up with this one. You'll see I'm going to put the paper down the right hand side. I'm using the A5 paper stack, so I cut 2 strips to put down that left hand side. And then I'll tear the edge off the white cardstock because I quite like that effect. And I stick these two together with washi tape. But then I forget to go back in after I've stitched this on to make the layout 12 by 12. So I didn't realise that until I was actually taking a photo of the layout and it wasn't square. So I had to come back in and reposition the bits that I put on the card, which I just about managed to do. So the very end still shot you'll see is the final layout. It's a bit annoying, but yeah, that's what happened. We all make mistakes, hey? So here's me just trimming that double strip down to 12-inch. And then I'm going to bring up my sewing machine and stitch that on like I did in yesterday's video. I really like the effect of that, especially when you've got a torn edge with pattern paper underneath, and it adheres it all nicely together. So my intention is to cover the seam where the 2 pieces of paper have been stuck together to make the 12-inch strip, and it's really just to show you that if you've got a 6x8 pad, you don't need 12 by 12 paper to do something like this if you're able to use your embellishments to hide the join. And in fact, the join didn't even show that much anyway because it's a small print. You don't really notice it when it's all stitched down. So here it is stitched down. At this point, I should have cut it down to 12 by 12 and I forgot, so very annoying. I'm just trimming my photo a little bit just to get rid of any excess that doesn't need to be on there. It's a picture of Amelia and I a couple of weeks ago. We went down to London on the week of the Jubilee. It was half term. The 4 of us went and we just took a quick selfie. It had been pouring with rain when we were in Trafalgar Square, and then it stopped whilst we were going down the Mall. Beautiful through Green Park, and then pouring again when we got to Knightsbridge. It was such a strange day, but it didn't stop us. We had our rain max, so that was fine. But this photo of me, I've got a big raindrop on my face where it literally just stopped, but the trees were still raining down the drops. But the Mall looked absolutely beautiful. All the flags were out and they had crowns on the top of the flagpoles, and all the barriers out ready for the big party. I think it was Thursday night they had the first party. So I'm just securing the ends of the threads here with some washi. And then ruffling up the edges a little bit just to add more texture and definition. And I chose to mount my photo like a Polaroid with a bigger piece at the bottom. I just like the way that looked. And then on the original it was a die cut saying summer to the left, but I decided to use my Sunchaser letters and create the word London. So I wanted to cut this piece to the same size as the photo, the Polaroid photo, so I'm just using that as a guide to get them the same length. I think while I was doing this, I was surprised at how wide the white space was. I should have realised. As you can tell, I'm still a bit annoyed with myself, but I'll get over it. So just choosing which paper to use on the right hand side of the photo and then trimming it to approximately the same size again. And there we go. Once I've got the 3 blocks in place, I'm happy with the sizing. I think at this point I'll come in and put the letters on. Yeah, here we go. And using my T-ruler to get things straight. At first I was just going to put the letters straight on, but then I realised it was better sticking them slightly onto the T-ruler and then I could centralise them. So LON on the first line and then DON on the second line, just like the original layout had Summer SUM and then MER underneath. It's a great way of making a feature of a word that's got 6 or 9 letters. Obviously 9 with 3 rows. And then I'm just creating a little text piece here. So cutting it to size. And then using an L Studio stamp to stamp this moment on the side. And I'm using my oxide ink. Chip Sapphire. That's a brilliant match for these storyteller papers. And then I pushed down too hard on the stamp and it bled a bit. I wasn't happy, so second time lucky. Just needs a light touch, and it was printed really nicely. And then I'll go in and do my guidelines for my writing. Being left-handed, I'm terribly wonky if I don't have guidelines, so this just makes it much easier. Quickly write my journaling. I just wrote a spur of the moment day trip to London, the week of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations, a quick selfie on the mall. Again, hadn't done enough lines. I always think I can squeeze more in than I actually do. There we go, that's going to go on the right hand side of the photo. So I'll stick that down because I know that that's the right position for that. And here I start playing around. I'm not sure whether I want them all lined up exactly or whether I prefer to have the Polaroid slightly higher up just to make it stand out a little bit more. Now I'm looking through the papers to choose a bit to put a notebook edge on. I'll try the green, because obviously you've got the green of the trees in the photo. But ultimately I want to try and keep it red, white and blue as much as possible. And then I find this strip. It would have been ideal if I could have taken the greens out and just had the red, yellow and blue, but not always possible. So I cut it down to size, and then it looks fine in the end, but I wanted the red at the top, but I punched the wrong side. So again, this is what I mean about this layout being really frustrating, just not quite doing what I wanted to do, but I couldn't be bothered to re-punch it. It was fine. We've got these punches in the shop. It's an EK Success notebook punch. It's absolutely fantastic. There's one with the rounded holes as well, which I've got my eye on, but this one's the square one I've had for years and I use it all the time. So just tearing off the edges and then lining it up underneath. I can't decide whether to put it above or below, and then I realise I want it underneath, and that block just looks a little bit too big with that jutting out, and I also want to have a label under that with the date, so I trim it down a bit. Sticking that on. And then buffing it up a little little bit to start with. I do quite a bit more in a bit once I've chosen the label piece. So I'll go in with that, but I'm not quite happy, so start looking at the stickers. I like the look of this piece at first, but then decide it's just too white. There's too much white in that whole block, and then it's going against the white background and it doesn't work for me. So I'll save that for another day. So go back to the one that I had originally and think, yeah, put that down with the label on top. And that works brilliantly. But I start by roughing these up and then realise that really I think it's once I've stamped the date, it's just too much, so I have to tear some of those off. So that floral piece is covering up the join in the paper, like I said. So you just think it was one continual piece now. I've taken it ever so slightly off the edge of the page, so just trim off that tiny bit. Just looking through, seeing what other little bits and pieces I can add. This is the flare badge that we created at Hey Little Magpie to go with the Storyteller range. And I really wanted to use this bunting because obviously with it being all in preparation for the Jubilee, I wanted to add some bunting there. Just going through the little bits and pieces, trying to choose and decide where everything goes. I think it's about at this point I realise I need to start sticking things down. Right, still trying to add pieces. I've got these clouds from the JD 3D print set to the moon and back, and they're just brilliant because it was such a rainy, sunny day. I thought they'd really go well. So scattering some hearts around. I do love these hearts. And here we go with the date. So this is where I realise that notebook paper is just a little bit too much. So I secure it in place and then start messing. I think I actually stick it down to the layout first. Yeah, there we go. Making sure that it's square. And yeah, there we go, tear some of the bits off. And then realise that probably the rest of it needs to be distressed as well once I've done that, so just have a bit of a fiddle. All goes quite well with the distressed edge that I've got on the white cardstock. The distressed look on that is much better than just leaving it plain. So because it's the photo, I want it to stand up and be the most prominent item on the layout. I decided to add a bit of foam behind it, which is a bit annoying when I try and deconstruct it to cut the edge off because I use wet glue and it's stuck solidly. The other pieces were with this double-sided, and you do have a little bit of time with double-sided tape before it solidifies on your page. So just checking that it's all level. So I tend to stick the two side bits first and then the middle piece. It's much easier to judge where it goes. The banner's going up on foam as well. Just get it positioned right. I didn't want the tails of the flower going over Amelia's head, and I didn't want the blue showing over the top of the banner from the card on the left hand side. Again, popping the heart up that goes underneath the word London on some foam. Just making sure it's central underneath those O's. See, the wet glue, not always the right answer. The tab needed to go up on foam as well. And there it is, stuck down. And it's just a case of positioning all these, trying to remember once again where I put them. I can't work out where that flare went before. I'm happy with the final resting place. So annoying when you put everything in place and you think, yep, I'll remember that, and then you move it while you're moving everything else around the layout and it's gone by the time you come back to it. So at the moment our flare all come on these foam circles at the back, but I may be changing that because it does add a bit more dimension to the layout, and they're easy to stick down with just some wet glue or double-sided tape, so I'm wondering whether to forego those now. What do you think? Do you have any of our flare? Do you like having the foam pad, or would you prefer it without? So just sticking these clouds down with Nuvo. Really happy with how those look. Decide that I prefer a blue butterfly, and the white on these die cuts, sometimes it's fine, but when you're laying it on tone, it was just way too much, so I spent some time trimming the white off. Strange though, because I'm fine with it on the flowers, so I don't know why I've taken against the butterfly. I think it just makes the butterfly a bit too chunky, and they're quite delicate things, so. I have to leave some white around the antenna, just so that they don't rip off, because they're quite delicate. There we go. So doing my usual trick, I put foam. Actually, I think I just put foam on one of the wings to layer it over that heart, and then the other wing I stuck flat down onto the page. Just adding another wordy strip that was in the ephemera. Needs a bit of foam underneath it. I cut the foam way too big, so trim that down and then glue it on. Same with the heart, because of the difference in levels, there's a piece of foam to the right hand side of that. And then just working out where I should put the butterfly, but I decided, yeah, I want it nestled next to that heart. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I didn't even put any foam on it at all, in fact, because the foam that's on the heart keeps the wings lifted. And then, because I've got butterfly down there, I wanted to balance it out a bit on the layout. Try a few different things, but decide on the butterfly in the end. I do like these tags, but they look odd against the banner. But yeah, finish with that butterfly because it's more subtle. It's just a very pale pink. So this is the one where I put the foam on both sides of the wings and then stick the body down in the centre. My glue's nearly run out, so I have to get a new bottle soon. And then just checking on the stickers if there's anything else I want to add. And I like this banner, so add that to the right hand card. It just brings a bit more colour into it because it's very white at the moment. Trimming off the edge of that die cut. And then I'm going to come in with my splatters, again the chipped sapphire distress oxide. And I want to be quite distinct in where I place it, so I use my hand to shield the splatters from going too far. I want some bigger bits up there. But it goes just on the, it stays on the right hand side of the photo and gets bigger towards the middle and then dies off slightly at the bottom. And it gives a nice balance to the layout. Then when I'm looking, I realise that I'm not quite happy at the bottom. I want to add a little bit more, so I get some sequins, some blue sequins, and add those. And again, I want to bring the embellishments down a bit further down the page in that bottom right hand corner so that it balances. We've got a diagonal going from the butterfly in the top left down to the bottom right. So once I've got these sequins on, you'll see I'll come back in with some more bits and pieces just to bring it right down the page. So I've got these Elle Studio clear hearts, which are beautiful. Because it's trying to find something that will nestle in with the sequins that I've just added. And then some enamel dots once those are secure. And bringing the enamel dots to the top as well. Just, again, just for balance really. So that's the finished layout until I realise that it's not the right size. Just one arrow at the bottom of the photo, just so that it's not white space at the bottom of that Polaroid that I created. So this really is the finished layout now, and very happy with the way it looks. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll join me again when I upload another video in the next couple of days, possibly tomorrow, but we'll see. See you soon. Thank you. Bye.